For today's cup of coffee, we're doing something new. I think everybody was worn out, especially as far as viewer count on the PsyOps, which each one of them was distinct and different. So I don't know. Maybe it was just whatever. I don't normally go by the viewer count. And we don't know that people won't go back later and watch it because when you find, and maybe they don't want to know that they have been PsyOped by advertising and all those things. Maybe they want to remain in their ignorance. I can understand that.
I can understand that too.
I mean, there's no judgment on that. People are just overloaded. Mm-hmm. So we're going to do something different today.
Yes.
And I had talked about him the other day, and I had missed him. I had longed for him. So we are going to do an article by Brent Swancer.
Oh.
Don't be hating on Brent. I mean, I have deep respect for him.
Get to the fucking point, my man.
I have deep respect for him.
Get to the fucking point, my man.
Now, I knew that here on Mysterious Universe, and that's Nick Redfern, and that he had been on Coast to Coast, but so has Brent.
Really?
He has. But it was like the George Norrie thing.
And his
now,
flowery vocabulary.
Well, Mr. Redfern, now he's been at this, and I think that Mr. Swancer has also, but Mr. Redfern had been back when Art Bell was there. And there is an interview with him. I haven't listened to it yet, but that's on YouTube. I need to. But now the interview on Coast to Coast with Mr. Swancer, that was George Norrie. And I actually did subscribe to the Coast to Coast with George Norrie for a very short period of time. And, you know, I like...
A very short period.
I do like the interesting things. But when you've got guests in that all they're doing is talking politics, I don't want to hear that. I'm not going to pay for that because I can listen to politics for free from people that I like. Mm-hmm. So, Kid is doing really interesting things with his beanie. But anyhow.
The beanie does interesting things with my head.
He likes to do the homeless man look with the beanie. I don't know why, but it works for him. So, this is from Mysterious Universe. The link will be in the description box. You can make it work, baby.
You look like you're about to bop someone with a frying pan. It's a good look.
And this is from Brent Swancer. It was written February the 10th of 2022. And I always think this is interesting because as we record this, it's the 9th. They're doing a time warp thing, which is pretty cool. And
let's do the time warp again.
Absolutely, just a jump to the left. And the mystery of the mystical lost city of Mount Shasta. Now I do edit the articles because I have to. You know, not only for time,
but because he doesn't get to the fucking point.
Well, it's not his. If you sit down and read the article, things read differently than when you're trying to orate them.
Yes, because he writes it like a fucking poem, not a fucking...
He does write like a poem, which can be beautiful. It is, but I'm not going to sit here and do that. I'm not going to do that to our people. But anyhow, he does
a dramatic reading.
Exactly. He does start out. Since time unremembered throughout history and cultures, there have always been tales of mystical, magical places lying lost
and woe
out over the horizon.
Tales of the lost and woe.
The idea that some wondrous place could be hiding out past the periphery of what we know has drawn in explorers and adventurers for centuries and has inspired the imagination. One such story that has persisted for quite some time is that of a fantastical city hidden away within the wilds of California's Mount Shasta.
Oh my God.
And that was me editing a lot of that. So it would have been a dramatic reading. I do not work for Audible. Anyhow. And he says that Mount Shasta, of course, is a now dormant volcano. What?
Get good money that way.
Well, that'd be all right. The second highest peak of the Cascade Range and the fifth highest mountain in all of California. And it said that the massive mountain can be seen from up to 140 miles, that's 230 kilometers for you other folks, away on a clear day. So that's an impressive, thing to see. I bet it'd be awesome to see that. So there's no surprise that the mountain has attracted all manner of legends and strange stories, with the natives of the area weaving all manner of myths about it. One of the strange stories that has surrounded the peak is the idea that it houses an ancient civilization of refugees from a sunken, lost continent.
A sunken, lost continent?
Yeah. Now, everybody's heard about Atlantis, but we're going to introduce peoples to the other one, because there was more than one that sunk.
Okay.
Because I thoroughly believe the Earth just flipped over completely.
Yeah, it flipped stupid.
Well, it's doing that now. And perhaps the most enduring and indeed most bizarre tale is that the mountain harbors an ancient secret city inhabited by the descendants of what are called the Lemurians, which are supposedly highly technologically advanced people who are said to have been the first humans on Earth and have lived on a lost, sunken continent known as Lemuria.
Huh.
And you're not familiar with Lemuria?
No, I've never heard of that before.
I don't understand why Atlantis got more publicity and still gets more publicity than Lemuria.
Yeah, because it's referenced in literally everything.
A lot of things, yeah. It really is. Now, the name Lemuria was coined in the mid-19th century to denote a hypothetical sunken continent that once bridged the Indian Ocean, and was so named because it was speculated that it was through this continent that the animals called lemurs had migrated from Madagascar to India. We were just talking about the lemurs the other day. Mm-hmm. And it was, what was his name, King Julian?
Yeah, King Julian.
So there you go.
Mort.
And Mort. He was the one with the foot fetish, wasn't he?
I think so.
I think he did.
Morty.
And the story...
Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty.
The story goes that as their continent sank due to some unspecified apocalyptic cataclysmic event, that a number of Lemurians managed to escape over the sea to Mount Shasta to establish the city of Telos. Telos. Now, somewhere under the mountain where they recreated their once great society and supposedly continue to live there today. Now, there's also the legend that there were people that had escaped from Atlantis and went to different, continents surrounding that.
Yeah.
So, who knows? Who knows? That Bimini Road thing is interesting. We'll get to that at some point, discussing some of these things that have been found in the ocean that were not always under the ocean. And we wonder how long will it be before what we know now is under the ocean. Yeah, well, that's like the geography of the area where we live. That was once sea, as far as the rounded mountains and the salt deposits and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's very easy to understand that. And who knows, millions, billions, trillions, whatever, of years ago. Now, the Lemurians are typically described as tall, graceful, and thin, ethereal beings who stand up to 7 feet in height with fair, almost luminescent skin, long, luxurious hair, and abnormally long necks, which they are said to decorate with collars made of beads, gold, or precious stones. So that sounds interesting just in itself. The strange beings are usually clad in flowing white robes and sandals. Why is it all these people have to do this flowing white robe thing? Are they elves? Were the elves in Tolkien based on the Lemurians?
I guess so.
It could be. It could be. Although it's said that they sometimes wear tunics or even walk around nude. They'd be nudists and stuff.
You put that lipstick away.
put a sock on that thing. They are said to have mastered various advanced technologies such as atomic energy, magnetism, electronics, and some even say that they have the ability to alter space-time itself thousands of years ago. And they are believed to possess great levitating airships, which they use for transport. Well, what else would you use a levitating airship for if not transportation?
Who knows?
Just sit there and look at it. It's like one of those what are those wonky things that the car selling, those weebly wonky.
Oh, the wiggly inflatable tube man.
I love those.
Yeah.
So would it have been the
inflatable tube man?
The airships? Maybe they were like that to them. It's just sit there and go, whoo, let's do this. Let's wave like they do. Yes, I really do that in the car.
I'm fine with
Everybody in the car has to do that. It's required.
I want one of the wacky inflatable tube men that you can just set on your desk.
That would be great.
Because they make those.
Do they?
They do.
I need one.
VAT19.com.
Okay.
Not sponsored. Not sponsored. I wish.
But if they would like to sponsor, that'd be all right.
Yeah.
It is even claimed that they illuminate their subterranean realm with an artificial miniature sun powered by some unknown powerful energy source beyond anything that we know. Now, I have heard that in other legends as far as there being a subterranean whatever it was in the second sun.
Mm.
Have you heard that one?
No.
Have you not been listening to our podcast?
I have been.
Anyhow, the Lemurians are also purported to have a walnut-sized organ of some sort, which protrudes from their foreheads and supposedly imbues them with vast psychic powers such as ESP, telekinesis, telepathy, the ability to appear and disappear at will, and the power to influence the minds of others.
And the power to stay the fuck away.
That's why they live under the mountain. The theory of Lemurians living within Mount Shasta can probably best trace its beginnings back to a book called A Dweller of Two Planets, which was written by Frederick S. Oliver in 1899. Now, in the summer of 1883, a teenaged Oliver had been helping his family mark the boundaries of their mining claim, which entailed driving stakes into the ground and then marking their location in a notebook. At some point during the task, Oliver's hand allegedly began to shake and convulse uncontrollably. Well, you can sort of...
He's got... Hey, what are you doing with your arm? Yeah.
And started to write down...
Why are you driving when you could do this?
And started to write down things seemingly of its own volition. The boy ran home in a panic. Well, yeah. And his hand continuing to act of its own accord.
It's like the fucking Evil Dead with the hand attacking.
Writing feverishly the entire way as if it had a mind of its own.
Give me back my hand.
How is he writing and running at the same time? Would that not include jabbing a pencil at some body part?
Yes.
You would think.
Yes.
That's like, don't run with scissors.
It's like, I need to jot this down.
Don't run with a sharpened pencil.
God, don't run with the...
It says as soon as he arrived home, his mother gave him more paper to write on.
The fuck?
But that's better than what I'd have been like, what the hell is wrong with you? Okay, it says he would continue to write and write and write. And this initial mysterious seizure would stop shortly after, revealing the beginnings of a text. Over the next 3 years, Oliver's hand would occasionally be overcome by this mysterious force.
Bullshit.
Writing several pages here and there until finally in 1895, he had completed an entire book which chronicled and described the existence of a secret Lemurian city at Mount Shasta and of the people's history. Oliver would go on to claim that he had been chosen by the Lemurians as their secretary and that the whole book had been telepathically channeled through him, and thus the automatic writing. And automatic writing is an interesting phenomenon. Now, Oliver claims that he had been taken...
You don't do that shit.
What?
You don't do the automatic writing?
I've done it in the past.
I'm saying you don't do channeling.
No, don't do that because you don't know. It's
Nobody
like,
does. No, don't do that shit.
No,
that's
because
dangerous as fuck.
It is. It is because it's like chat rooms or anything like that. You think you know who you're talking to, but do you really know who you're talking to?
No.
Right. Go back and watch the Dark
I prefer seeing
Triad.
people in person, just like this chicken sandwich.
Go back and watch about the Dark Triad. If you missed that one, it was the second PSYOPs. Because these people are amongst us. Lemurians, I have no problem with. But now, psychopaths, I have a problem with.
The reptilians.
I have a problem with reptilians, too. But Oliver claimed that he had been taken astrally to the city itself and had seen it with his own eyes. Okay, if you're astral projection, do you truly have eyes?
How do you see?
Through the spirit. But it's
so there you go.
I guess that's what it is. But as far as actual eyes, he saw it with his spirit.
Well, spirits have eyes too.
Well,
have you not seen the angels depicted in the King James Version?
That's a different thing.
Be not afraid. While it's floating there, many rings with many eyes, multiple wings,
and often a sword.
Yeah.
Be not afraid, my ass. No,
yeah, that's how you say. Be not afraid. I'm running.
That's the reason most people. They sort of, L.A. Marzulli, they do a face plant when they see one.
I would die. I would literally die.
Anyhow, it says he's describing this place in the mountain as being deep within the mountain, comprised of vast warrens of illuminated tunnels with secret automatic doors, elegant architecture, and apartments plated with gold and carpeted with luxurious, fleecy substance. I don't know.
It sounds like something straight out of the 70s. Like futuristic.
Like I said, this was 1800s.
I know, but it sounds like something that's like... You know how like the 70s depicted future stuff?
Yeah.
That's sort of like...
Yeah, but this was before that. The entire city was said by Oliver to be generously decked out in glittering crystals, gold, silver, bronze, and precious stones, the whole of which was powered by crystal energies, brightly illuminated, and was inaccessible to outsiders without the expressed invitation of the Lemurians themselves. Well, yeah, who can blame them?
Well, we already knew crystals have energy.
They do. They do. High technology was said to abound in the city, and this book was very groundbreaking for that time. That's what I was going to say, because this, you talk about the 70s. This is way before that.
Oh, yeah, I knew. I had nothing to compare it to.
Right. And when the book was released, it made just a huge, huge hit. But it also mentioned in detail concepts such as quantum mechanics, anti-gravity, mass transit, and zero-point energy, which he called dark side energy. So he got these ideas somewhere.
Yeah.
So maybe it was from the ether.
Maybe.
And it says Oliver died in 1899 at the age of 33. So he was pretty young. Of course, then, if you was in your 30s and had existed, just getting up there.
Yeah.
And it says his book was finally published in 1905 by his mother. And at the time of publication, Oliver's book, of course, became an instant occult classic. Not just cult classic, occult classic. And this book is acknowledged for a lot of New Age belief systems, which is probably at some point where I heard of it. Now, in 1931, Harvey Spencer Lewis, who was using the pseudonym that I will probably screw up horribly, it was Wisar, W-I-S-A-R, Spinley, S-P-E-N-L-E, Curve, C-E-R-V-E.
The czar of the spindlies.
Yes, he was.
Spindly folk.
He also wrote a book
Man.
on the phenomena which further launched the popularity of the idea of lost cities and societies lurking within the depths of the mountain. From here, the accounts of this strange race of powerful beings and their magnificent city of Telos really took off. It says there were many more accounts of the Lemurian civilization of Mount Shasta that would surface over the following years. In May 22nd, of course, 1932 edition of the Los Angeles Times, there appears the odd account of Mr. Edward Lanzer, who had been passing Mount Shasta on a train when he claimed to have seen the whole southern side of the mountain blaze to life with a brilliant, almost blinding, strange, reddish-green illumination. Yeah, that was sort of like, they doing something over there.
Yeah.
When he asked the train conductor what it was that he had seen, he was assured that it was nothing more than the work of the Lemurians. I guess it was common to the train conductor.
I guess so.
Lancer later went to investigate the strange light, and he asked locals from the towns that were there what he had seen. And supposedly, they had told him that it was nothing more than a mysterious community of people that were living within the mountain, that they performed rituals in the early morning and in the evening, and that they made use of strange sources of brilliant light. And that's what he had been seeing.
It was owls.
It was probably owls. Brightly colored owls. And supposedly the ceremony was known as the Adoration to Gautama, with Gautama supposedly being the Lemurian word for America, and that they were celebrating their ancestors' arrival on this continent and for them not dying, basically. And, yeah.
Ooh.
The locals also said that the Lemurians were known to come down from their secretive mountain realm into town from time to time, and that they were very tall, odd-looking folk. Well, yeah, especially if they've got some kind of something on their head, some kind of growth on their head that lets them have telekinesis. And again, they wore the white robes and were barefoot, and they would buy huge amounts of sulfur, salt, and lard. And they would always pay for it in gold nuggets that far exceeded the value of the merchandise. Hey, we used to have...
I'm fine with that. Give me golden nuggets.
We had some old timers. I mean, we had one up on the mountain that he would come by. He would come down on the mountain maybe like once or twice a year. Now, this is for real. And he was a moonshiner.
Oh.
And so it was interesting. It's like, oh, look, there's Homer. Because it was a huge thing when Homer come down off the mountain. And it's like, then the government stole his land. Because the government is asshole.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, but it was a cool thing when you saw Homer. It says that Lancer he had intentions of going up on the mountain to find the Lemurians, but when he told the local officials and ranchers, he was ridiculed. And I'm like, well, he was ridiculed because he said that his trek into the sacred precincts, that they had assured him that the entrance was as difficult and forbidden to find as an entrance into Tibet. So that was the reason that he was like, that he didn't understand what task, he had intended.
Yeah.
So Lancer seemingly gave up on his quest, and it's unknown exactly what became of him. They crushed his little spirit, God love him.
He went into hiding.
Then in June 27th, 1940...
he got cloned.
The edition of the Mount Shasta Herald, William Bridge Cook wrote of a Professor Edward L. Larkin of the Mount Low Observatory, who claimed to have observed the mystical city at great length through his telescope on several occasions. Now, Larkin allegedly discovered the city by accident as he was calibrating his telescope. He was a voyeur. He was a voyeur, yes. And that he had spied something shiny on the mountain. And then he focused on the object and found it to be an enormous Oriental-style temple, which he described as a marvelous work of carved marble and onyx, rivaling in architectural splendor the magnificence of the temples of Yucatan. End quote.
That's cool.
Do you know how hard it is to try to articulate all that stuff properly?
I know. I was watching you struggle.
Larkin went on to claim to have seen other temples on the mountainside as well, including ones that were in apparent Greek style, which also included white marble columns. That would be cool to see.
Yeah.
And in addition to mentioning the architecture, Larkin also claimed that temples would often be beset by mysterious bright lights in the evening hours. He said of these lights, quote, their display of light far excels our modern electrical achievements. And I am, for one, consumed with curiosity to know how these people can produce such amazing light effect, end quote. In an odd twist, Larkin then apparently became sidetracked by other work and was never able to locate the temples he had seen again. Cook, for his part, proceeds to spend most of the rest of the article trying to actively debunk the claim through the standpoint that it would have been physically impossible for Larkin to have seen what he claimed to see from his particular vantage point. Then why did he even print the thing?
I guess he had nothing else to do.
It was just a space filler.
Yeah.
He could have talked about
fuckery.
The lady down the roads and her corns and calluses.
It was brain vomit.
That was what people used to print about. It's like, pray for Miss So-and-so. She got corns and calluses. Seriously.
Taught the corns to feed the children.
And a 1962 edition of the Australian Flying Saucer Review mentions in an article by Andrew Thomas the curious case of a forest fire in 1931 which ravaged most of the mountain yet was kept from advancing by the appearance of a mysterious fog. In the aftermath of the fire, it was reportedly discovered that there was a perfectly clear and curved demarcation zone remaining between the charred earth and the undamaged areas. It was said by locals that this was the work of the Lemurians protecting their domain through some unknown technological wizardry. Well, now this was in 1962. There was from the account in 1931. I thought, that ain't that far back.
Yeah.
It is said that their city and structures are impervious to the effects of the many earthquakes that ravage the region, and it saves their architecture from falling down. And apparently they have the ability to control the earth itself. Well, the way things are going right now, these people falling down on the job.
Yeah.
If they all that, why ain't they fixing some of this shit? Anyhow, they literally are. They've been living under a rock and
yeah.
It says the Lemurian people and their strange devices have long been seen in the area right up to the present. And typically they are seen walking along roads or even city streets of the town of Mount Shasta, only to suddenly disappear as if they were never there at all, presumably due to their psychic abilities and their knack for blending into their surroundings. Often they are only glimpsed from the periphery of vision and elude any efforts to spot them straight on. They are sometimes known to appear to help farmers who have fallen on hard times using some sort of advanced agricultural techniques to revive the soil. One account tells of a Lemurian woman who emerged from a forest in full view of a group of people and proceeded to lie down in the frigid water of Panther Springs for a full 5 minutes before silently getting back up and walking back into the wilderness.
That's fucked up. That's freaky as fuck.
Hot flashes.
Yeah. Dear God, menopause.
Really, there are also numerous sightings of a strange boat, which is said to sail as far as the Aleutian Islands and will approach shore only to suddenly hover in the air and make its way to Mount Shasta. One old account even mentions a visit to San Francisco by a white-robed patriarch who was joined by an entourage of younger men, and they met with the city officials to bring a message of greetings and goodwill during World War II. Now, if that happened today in San Francisco or most parts of California, no one would even notice.
It literally would just blend into everything else.
Right. No one would know. It says that a Dr. M. Dorrell claimed that he had gone down into the mountain layer where he saw an enormous cavern that was an astounding 20 miles long. Now, did he take a ruler with him to do this? How the hell did he know it was 20 miles long?
That takes more than a ruler.
Really? 15 miles wide and 2 miles high, which was illuminated by a gigantic blazing artificial sun right in the center of it. Another account mentions a man who fell asleep on the mountain and was awakened by a Lemurian, who then brought him into the city, which was paved with gold. And one of the strangest stories comes from a 1904 account, which first appeared in a 1934 edition of the Stockton Record concerning J.C. Brown, a British prospector who had come to the mountain with the Lord Cowdrey Mining Company to prospect for gold. And during this expedition, Brown allegedly stumbled across a tunnel into the hillside, which led down into the mountain. The prospector then ventured into the opening and found that it stretched several miles into the mountain and ended in a complex of rooms full of ornate statues, crystals, shields, and gold and copper plates. And there was also supposedly an enigmatic and extravagantly decorated burial chamber containing at least 27 mummies that were described as being between 6 foot 6 inches in height to 10 feet in height, several of which were wrapped in some sort of ornamental robes. I don't know, maybe they just had them out in the living room for display. Who knows how that went.
Taxidermy.
Really. The discovery was touted by Brown as being one of the most exciting archaeological finds of the century, and eventually an expedition led by John C. Root and comprised of 80 members was brought together for further exploration of the tunnel based on the claims. However, on June 19th, 1934, the day of exploration that was supposed to start out from Stockton, J.C. Brown did not show up and was never seen again.
Damn.
Yeah.
He got taken.
He was a troll. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It says it's highly suspicious that the finding was allegedly made in 1904, and yet the story was not made public until 1934. Didn't you say that there was a story that somebody had written where these dudes, it was about treasure, and that these people had gone looking for this stuff? Or maybe that was a Mr. Ballin story. But anyhow,
that was a Mr. Ballin story.
These people had gone into this, wilderness, woods, whatever it was, and damn near got themselves killed. They had to be rescued, brought out of there, and the idiots went back again.
And then one of them froze to death.
I think you're right. And so whoever had...
That wasn't a Mr. Ballin story either. You found that story on your own.
Did I? Okay. Anyhow, so whoever had authored the story originally had to go back and say, look, this is not real. And, the thing for Atlantis, didn't it come from like Plato? Or it was one of the Greek writers that had made mention of Atlantis and all that. I'm not poo-pooing that. Because they also used to think that Helen of Troy was a myth and stuff. And there were people, it's like, no, this is real. Mm-hmm. And they were persistent, and they did find as far as the city of Troy.
Yeah, but we don't know if Atlantis or that other thing is... we don't know if those are actually real.
We don't. So these things... Because they
seem too out there to be real.
I don't think so. I think as far as whichever Greek author it was, that he didn't go overboard with it. It was just like, oh, yes, this was here and had 3 rings and, it sank. I mean, it wasn't a big whoop about it. People over the years have... extended, the way that Mr. Swancer said, people do want to believe in these magical, mythical places that are just outside of our scope of understanding.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that they don't exist.
I would love it if they would exist, because I would like to escape to them.
Sure. Well, dwarves. And that was one of the things that the dwarves were supposed to live under the mountains. They were supposed to mine jewels. That's not just Tolkien. That's been other legends and stuff. Tolkien got a lot of his inspiration from somewhere.
Right.
So, huge Tolkien fan.
Yeah.
But Mount Shasta, I remember Shasta Cola. That was a thing for a while.
don't know anything about
I
that.
think I don't even know that that's a drink brand anymore, but that was a thing.
You can see if it is.
But as far as things under the earth that we have no understanding of, there's a lot of people that think that is. Mm-hmm. As far as thinking that there are other beings that are here, well, yeah, I'm one of those.
Yeah.
I think that is.
I agree with that.
I think there's a hell of a lot more out there that we don't understand and don't know. Mm. And that there are things and forces that don't want us to know. Which includes what we are as the peoples. So, I thought it was an interesting thing about the Lemurians.
Yeah, it is.
You have new knowledge.
New knowledge. Yeah. Knowledge. Nice.
So, if you have experiences with paranormal, supernatural encounters, UFOs, aliens, cryptids, if you're familiar with the tale of Lemuria or the Lemurians who may be there at Mount Shasta, if you've got local, regional, family, myths, legends, send us an email, cupofcoffeewithscream@gmail.com. Thank you for having coffee with us
Yes.
and pondering the great ponderings. Yeah.
Ponder with us.
Ponder with us.
daily.
Drink coffee with us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Spend time with us. And we thank you for spending time with us.
Mm-hmm. And if you liked this video, don't forget to like, share, comment, and most of all, subscribe and click that little notification button to get daily notifications of our daily uploads. Oh, hell yeah, I did it.
You got it. You there. You are there. So we'll see you on the next cup. Bye.
Yeah, bye.